Hey, how's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing a new talent change for PvP talents, Dead of Winter, and of course, the removal of Heartstop. So in this video, we're going to go into specific details on whether it's good, bad, and whether or not it's going to be good for our class overall that this change is happening. So let's go ahead and jump into this video and do this. So the first thing we need to discuss in PvP talents is, like, what are we sacrificing to obtain this new PvP talent, Shroud of Winter? Obviously, what's being thrown out the door is Heartstop Aura. As you can see, it's nowhere in the new PvP talents. So what exactly are we sacrificing to obtain this? Heartstop Aura reduces the recovery cooldown rate of offensive and defensive abilities for any targets within 8 yards, which happens to be really strong in terms of arena, because that would offset our cooldowns so we could burst on something. It wouldn't line up our cooldowns into, let's say, defensive abilities nearly as often inside of arena. That would give us nice openings and nice kind of burst windows that we can put in a lot of damage and hopefully land kills on targets that would, smartly rotate defensive cooldowns is one of the simple things that it would do. To use as an example, let's talk about, fighting another Death Knight as a Death Knight. You've got Anti-Magic Shell. Now, if one Death Knight had Heartstop and the other Death Knight didn't have Heartstop, the second burst that you'd come around with Pillar, they would not have Anti-Magic Shell for that burst because it would offset it a little bit, and it would really give the Death Knight with Heartstop Aura a much bigger opening to deal damage than the other Death Knight, because as we know, Chill Streak is like our go-to, buffness right there for our damage, and whether or not your Chill Streak goes into Anti-Magic Shell is going to be a massive percentage of your damage. Now, being that neither of us have Heartstop Aura means that one Frost Death Knight is always going to Anti-Magic Shell into the other Chill Streak. I mean, both of them are most likely going to be doing this at this point, because obviously Pillar of Frost is on a 1 minute cooldown, and so is Anti-Magic Shell. So essentially every time you burst on another Frost DK at this point, you are going to be bursting into an Anti-Magic Shell, which to me, 1v1 just sounds like, crap, personally. So anyway, so what are we losing at this? We are losing burst windows. We are losing opportunity to burst on targets outside of defensives because we don't have that damage reduction, which does in turn hurt us 1v1. It's going to hurt us in arena. It's going to hurt us in threes. It's also going to hurt us in rated battlegrounds because we are not increasing the recovery rate of offensive abilities of people nuking on us inside of those rated battleground scenarios also. So it's going to be a huge effect on really anything we do PvP wise with that Heartstop ability. It was actually extremely powerful. Now, that being said, this is why I actually hated the talent. Because of that talent being so strong, it would hold back Death Knight class overall from becoming a strong class. Let's say in like 1v1 scenarios when you were fighting other classes, Death Knights seem to lack in that scenario. As you can see from this expansion, whether you're dueling a Rep Paladin or you're dueling a lot of the other classes, let's say Enhancement Shaman, realistically, it really feels like Frost Death Knights are like 80% of a regular class, and it has felt that way for quite a while. And personally, I've kind of said this about this talent for the past couple expansions, is I really feel like this talent was the culprit of what's holding back Frost DKs from feeling good. Going up 1v1 against a target, smashing out some insane burst, being that big bad juggernaut that really could just smash out targets, being that our mechanical strength was so strong because of that talent, we could not be the juggernauts that we wanted to be previously, right? So I've actually talked about this for the past few expansions, saying that I want this talent removed, but obviously, that being said, the talent needs to be removed correctly, and the class itself needs to be changed in the right direction to make it so our class doesn't absolutely suck now that we're missing one of the key components that allowed our classes such as Frost Death Knights to be good, being that we are on a 1 minute cooldown on Pillar of Frost. That being said, inside of arena or 1v1 scenarios, kind of like Frost DK versus Frost DK, anytime we burst now with our Pillar of Frost, we're going to be bursting into defensive cooldowns now that we don't have Heartstop, which is actually extremely painful, being that with Chill Streak, the setup means everything. The setup is everything. Going for that burst, CCing him out, stunning him with your big dragon, and then laying out that big Chill Streak. The setup is pretty much everything. And if they have defensive cooldowns for every setup, you know how hard it is going to be to maximize that pressure or deal big burst damage on targets, being that they either have defensives or they have some kind of mobility use that'll get them outside of that kind of little burst setup that we got going on there. Obviously trinkets and stuff like that, but that wasn't affected by Shroud of Winter, or not Shroud of Winter, Heartstop. But that being said, it is going to absolutely hurt our arena game. And, and 1v1 scenarios. Because, like, in terms of dueling, Heartstop, let's say, versus a Paladin, did have some effect, being that he did get, a Paladin would get their abilities back a bit slower. Which really was kind of like the scenario that kind of let us push forward into a rep Paladin, throw up our defensives, do some damage, and then afterwards our kind of damage would fall off and we wouldn't really be doing as much damage after, let's say, our defensive abilities fall off, our offensive abilities fall off, and then the Paladin's just like walk to full health. And that was kind of the scenario it kind of felt like with a Frosty Cape for a lot of the time, because obviously Heartstop Aura. Being that it was more of a talent that was meant for a longevity of a battle instead of short little fights. And the issue being there is that if we didn't have enough healing capability to last long enough that talent actually mattered in the fight, we were gimped overall as Frosty K's in the long run in comparison to if we didn't have that talent and if we had some kind of other burst increase. Now, being that we are going to be bursting into defensives on a regular basis now because of the removal of this talent, that means we are going to need quite a bit more burst to be viable inside of arena situations. Now, that being said, Chill Streak is also one of the other culprits I personally have a love-hate relationship with, because obviously our burst is going to rely on this setup with Chill Streak, and of course, laying out those big obliterate hits while Chill Streak is bouncing is going to be kind of our big damage. The massive amount of pressure you can do within 4 to 5 seconds while CC is going off and landing a kill on a target, even though the majority of damage breakdowns currently seem to be ending in worst case scenario within a second. There's like 4 or 5 abilities popping off in a single second. You're doing 40 to 30k health in some kind of offensive pressure, which is absolutely nutty that damage breakdowns are coming in 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 5 seconds, which personally I don't think that should be happening. You should not be killing somebody with 8 different attacks within a single second, but that's a subject for a completely different video, right? So anyways, talking about Shroud of Winter, this is going to be what's replacing this talent that actually did so much for Frosty K's arena-wise. And of course, even though I didn't necessarily like it, if you could last a fight 1v1 long enough that it could affect the fight, I mean, there was some small cooldown abilities that it did affect, which did help us in our favor. But now that we're losing that, let's say, like Frosty K versus Red, Frosty K Feral, anything like that is really going to be much worse than we were previously in terms of 1v1, which is really bad to hear. And realistically, I hate saying it, but losing that ability and not gaining something as strong or something that increases our burst or something that increases our healing capabilities is overall going to be much worse for our class. So that being said, is the removal of Heartstop going to be a buff or a nerf? It is an absolute nerf, whether you're talking about 1v1, 2v2s, 3v3s, or rated battlegrounds. It is an absolute mechanical nerf, but also, as I've said previously in the video, I've wanted this talent gone for quite some time, so Frosty K can be fixed correctly. Now, that being said, Shroud of Winter, is that the answer? Hell no. What in the blazing heck of a poor excuse for a talent is Shroud of Winter? Now, in terms of 1v1 scenarios, Shroud of Winter is going to be an absolutely useless talent. In terms of 1v1, fighting people, dueling people, whatever you're doing out in the world, PvPing, ganking somebody, in terms of 1v1, this talent is going to be doo-doo. Absolutely useless doo-doo talent. I don't want to see it. Get it out of my face for 1v1. I don't want to be specking into this garbage. Why? Because enemies within 8 yards, 8 yards, you got to be within 8 yards of these people for this talent to take effect. Keep that in mind in 1v1. And they become shrouded, reducing the range of their spells and abilities by 30%. So that reduction from, let's say, 30 yards to 27 yards isn't really going to matter unless you're within 8 yards. You see the problem when it comes to 1v1 scenarios there? You literally, for it to actually affect that 1v1, you're going to have to be within 8 yards. So you're going to be within range for that to affect them, for them to hit you with their spells and abilities. You're going to be within 8 yards, meaning that they're not at 27 yards or further, which means it's absolutely useless when it comes to 1v1 scenarios. And that pains me so much to see that they're like, you know, we're going to take something that's so mechanically strong and we're going to replace it with something that is absolutely useless for the things that actually need to be fixed towards Frost DK. And that blows my mind to see that this was their decision to add something like this, while removing something that's so mechanically powerful overall for Frost Death Knights in the PvP section. So that just absolutely blows my mind. That being said, is this going to be a useful talent in Arena? Now, 2v2s, I could see it actually having some kind of function. In terms of, let's say, you know, you're focusing, let's say you have to sit on a Warlock, right? And the Warlock Fear, instead of being 30 yards, is going to go to 27 yards, meaning that they're going to have to be a little bit closer. They may actually be forced to play a little bit more outside of position to use that Fear, but being that it's going to take them, I don't know, maybe a second more to set up in the right position to get a Fear off, overall, I don't think it's going to be massive. I think it is going to affect it, but I don't think it's going to be huge. Now, in places that this could be really good, obviously, it's going to be like, let's say they have a DPS who's chasing your healer. You as a Frost DK is chasing the other healer. Your DPS is going to hard switch to the healer when you go for the go and set it up. And being at as it may, your other DPS, let's say in threes, is going to be hitting that DPS that's hitting your healer to peel him off him, deal a little bit of pressure to him. And you as the Frost DK are going to be sitting on, let's say, the healer, doing a little bit of split DPS before you both hard switch to a single target and set up the kill. Now, Shroud of Winter on that healer is going to make it so that healer has to be a bit closer to that DPS to actually heal him, because, you know, your secondary DPS is putting in pressure on him. That being said, the healer's going to have to outrange himself a little bit further to come closer to the DPS. That's going to open up opportunities for your healers to CC that other healer. It's going to open up opportunities for you to hit that healer with Dragon, because it's going to have to be a little bit closer. It's going to give you a little bit more of an opportunity to set up grips on that DPS target if you're going to be gripping him off your healer into the other healer and then laying in that big CC chain right there to chill streak both targets. That is going to be where this talent is it's going to be good at. Going to relieve a little bit of range pressure, while it's also going to give you a little bit of leeway to actually set up your burst on targets. But being as it may, obviously, like I said earlier in the video, chill streak being one of my love-hate relationships, I don't want to be forced into this meta again, even further into this crappy meta of having to rely completely on chill streak setup to actually deal damage and kill somebody inside of PvP instances. That's why going this direction with Shroud of Winter, instead of actually increasing, let's say, the defensive capabilities or offensive capabilities of Frost DK, and sticking us straight back into this mechanical hole, being that it's a worse mechanical hole that we were already in, being that, let's say, Heartstop was like a 3-foot, hole. This one is at least like 7 foot. Like, we can't see over the top of the hole. We are underneath the ground, and people are just going to start burying us at this point, because Heartstop was really like the bread and butter cheese of what made arena play good for a Frost DK overall. But this Shroud of Winter talent is a poor excuse for a band-aid, in my opinion. It's not that good in terms of 1v1. It's completely useless, in my opinion. And in terms of arena gameplay, it will give you a little bit more opportunity to, let's say, burst on somebody. But overall, losing the mechanical strength of Heartstop was not worth it. Not worth it whatsoever. Not even remotely worth it, not even close. Now, we could be a little bit more optimistic with this and be like, it's going to give us a little more uptime. It's going to give us a little more chance to set this up. But realistically, like, if you weren't setting that stuff up to begin with and landing kills outside of Shroud of Winter, the chances are you're probably not going to be able to do it with Shroud of Winter. Like, let's be real here. It wasn't that hard to set up a 30-yard grip on somebody to lay in the combo to land a chill streak to kill somebody inside of arena. It really wasn't that challenging. And this just kind of makes that part easier. Now, that being said, is that going to reduce the amount of fears that your healer takes if you're focusing a Warlock? Maybe, if your healer's maximum ranging, which is really going to just kind of add a little bit more emphasis on where people are standing and a little bit more placement, being smarter in placement in comparison to what they were, because this will reduce the range. But overall, removing Heartstop, adding in this talent, I believe, is a terrible change for Frost DKs overall. It is a definite overall nerf. And I realistically think and hope that there's going to be further changes, because the way that this is right now is going to be terrible. It's not good for us. It's not good for the future. And I hope they do further changes for Frost DKs that either increase our burst potential, because we are going to be bursting into defensive cooldowns on a regular basis at this point, or they're going to have to increase our overall survivability so we can last out matches. And 1v1 scenarios and make it work, make it happen. Maybe give us some kind of obliterate increased damage. Let's say, I don't even know, like some things in the past, kind of like a grip into 30% obliterate damage increase, kind of gave an option of sacrificing your mobility strength for increased burst during select times that you could benefit from if you knew what you were doing, but outside if you didn't know what you were doing, it could actually hurt your overall arena play. Stuff like that would actually kind of give like a choice of what you wanted to do, which would be awesome. Like if you wanted to burst somebody harder, let's go into that. If you wanted to mechanically grip somebody in because you're playing, let's say, range comp, good option for that. But outside of that, I gotta say, this change is not good for Frosty K. And in terms of like wanting to do PvP on a Frosty K, in terms of Battlegrounds, I'm not enjoying Battlegrounds currently. And you can probably tell that reflective of like how much I'm actually posting videos on the channel. Battlegrounds for a Frosty K, not very fun overall. And with something like this being implemented and kind of our bread and butter kind of being removed, I just kind of feel like a gimped class compared to the rest of the classes when I really think about it overall. I'm not really doing much anymore. I'm doing less burst pressure than literally just about every other class I can think about outside of the Chill Streak setup. And my healing capabilities are lower than just about all the other classes. And now that we don't have that mechanical strength, we are literally just less than the other classes at this point as a Frosty K. And it's bad news. It's terrible to look at. It's terrible to see. You know, I've said in a couple other videos in the past, you know, they're drinking that crazy Kool-Aid again. And I believe they're doing it again if this is the only change that's going to be looking towards Frosty K in the near future in the next patch. Because this is a poor excuse for a change. So anyways, guys, I hope you like this video, even though it's terrible news. I haven't posted in a bit. I've been adventuring on other games because, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to play a video game that's, you know, combat, you know, MMO style thing, you know, roll a dice between 1 and 7, you get one shot. Anything higher than that, you somehow survive. I'm not really a big fan of. But anyways, guys, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed that I came back to talk about this and to let you guys know that this is garbage. This is garbage. This is a poor excuse. Like, this is an absolutely poor excuse for a change for Frosty K's. But anyways, guys, of course, until next time, this was your boy Hazzed.